Welcome back to this second part of the calendar budget. This is where I'm going to show you how to actually input your transactions so that you are able to successfully use your calendar budget. I am going to take my time as I go through this, so it may feel like it's going to take a little bit. It's okay. If you feel like you got it and you want to jump right into doing your calendar, no problem. This video will be here for you, so you can always go back and take a look. Let's get started. So the first thing that's going to happen is when you get into your calendar, you're going to see a screen that looks very much like this. If you do not, you can simply go to this icon over here, and that'll allow you to go to account setup. Once you get to account setup, you'll probably have a blank one here. I just have these are kind of like my dummy ones that I use to kind of show people how to create a calendar. So this one will go ahead and create one. So I'm going to just start this by showing you that you have an option by either importing your files or you can manually enter. I choose to manually enter. I think it helps me actually maintain my files better. There are other options where you can link the bank accounts directly. For me, I don't like that because I feel like I manage my money better when I am personally inputting it. You find your system. If you notice that you're not staying on top of your money and you're not handling it right, then you need to manually enter your transactions. If you're really good about it, then you might be okay with allowing the bank just to upload it. For this purpose right here in this lesson, I'm going to manually input everything. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. Again, you can name it whatever you want. It might be your bank account. So this one I'm just going to pretend like I have a bank account with Suncoast Bank or whoever you want to bank with. So I'm just going to put logistical lies, Suncoast. And you may say checking, you may say whatever you want. It is completely up to you. Also for this practice, this is for the starting balance, okay? So for this one, this is about what you have available to start your business. Everyone is going to be different. Some people may be like, you know what? I have a truck and I don't have any money yet. My suggestion to you is to have some cash available for maintenance. The lower your starting balance, the easier it is for your bank account to go into the negative. For this one, I'm going to tell you, I know I'm going to get yelled at about this, but please try to have at least $3,000 to $5,000 set aside for maintenance. Really more, or even a credit card. Even if you get approved for a credit card, you're going to need maintenance money set aside. The budget will also set aside maintenance, but do not wait to get paid just to set aside maintenance. You need some money for that. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the person has $2,500. And I know I said 3 to 5, but I just want to show you what happens when you have right at 25. And we're going to start it as today's date. So the calendar goes, the account name, your starting balance, and the day that you will have that money. So if it's next month, then you need to change the date to next month. It will also give you options to change the categories. These are the categories. It goes all the way over. It's plenty, so you can see them all right here. If there's something as you're building your calendar that you don't see that you put down, remember at the first lesson, we talked about going ahead and writing down a list of all the type of transactions that you would have. If none of these options fall into that, please go ahead now and add category. You just put the name there and you can go back and fill it in later, but please go ahead and add the category. And you could just say, for whatever purposes, whatever you want to put, you can say, because I think one thing that's not on here, and that would be who you are. So you can put owner, pay. So that's one of the things that's not on there. You can put that again however you want it. So just make sure that you have all those listed. Once you have those listed, let's get into it. And again, don't frustrate yourself. If you don't, let's get into it. I will show you later how you can go back and add it. I'm going to pull the transactions here that I listed, and I'm going to go over what these mean. So I went ahead and based this calendar off of one truck driving over the road for 3,000 miles per week. This particular truck will average 6.5 miles per gallon. And at today's fuel prices, it's going to be somewhere around $5.26 per mile to go ahead. I'm sorry, per gallon to fill that tank up. Okay, so $5.26 per gallon to fill up the tank. So follow along with that. So we're going to at least start with what the mileage rate is. All right. So this driver is driving 3,000 miles a week. So here's your 3,000 divided by 6.5. The 6.5 is the performance of the truck. You may have a newer truck that is able to do 7, even 8 or more. The more miles per gallon that the truck is able to do, the better the truck is, and the less money you will spend in fuel per week. The less, the more money you will spend. And it might even have a maintenance issue, especially if it drops below 6. So that's something you're going to want to look at. How you find out how much money you're going to spend on fuel is you will take the miles per week that you will run, divided by your fuel miles per gallon for that truck. If you don't know it, you can either ask the previous owner. When you run it for a week, you may be able to find it. You may not know it the first week, so you may have to gauge it, or try to look it up. There's a way you might be able to Google it for that particular truck. But it is very important to try to find that as close as you can. If you are unsure, I'd say set it around 5, and then you can kind of go from there if it's better. So right now, if you have 3,000 miles and that truck is doing about 6.5 miles per gallon, that tells you that that truck is going to need 461.53 gallons right here in order to fill up that tank. Then we're going to multiply that 461.53 by today's average rates. Now, if you live somewhere where it's much lower, just keep in mind that the driver is going to be over the road. So you have to do an average based off what it is from point A to point B and around if they're going into California. Also, again, when we talked about if you're carrying heavier loads, if you are doing anything that's going up mountains, it's going to drop those prices. So you don't want to say, oh, it's only going to be $4, I get a discount. No, you want to really keep it about what the averages are so that you can kind of have some plus or minus and some wiggle room in there to play with. By doing this, you're looking at your fuel weekly cost being around $2,427.69. So here's our weekly fuel. So we're going to start by going ahead and put our weekly fuel on this calendar. Mine already has fuel. If yours does not, please add it. You can put diesel, fuel, whatever you want to put. If yours does not, please go ahead and add it. So we're going to click on fuel. I like to make sure you put fuel here and then the truck. We're going to call this truck 001. For the purposes of this lesson, everything's going to be 001. We're going to say it's going to withdraw. You have the option to make it a deposit or withdrawal. So let's say you get a refund or something comes back. Right now it's going to be a withdrawal. 24.27.69 is going to come out every week, once a week. I'm going to put this for Wednesday. You can contact a company to try to find what day works for you best based on what day you get paid on. Try to not make them too close together, so you always have a little bit of room in there to make sure your payments are done. This is what is called the monthly budget. You can set this as 0, or you can say, I don't want to spend, because based on 24.27 times 4 weeks, it's about $9,700 or more. You may say that's the maximum I want to spend on fuel. If it goes over that, I want to be alerted. So let's just put it for 10,000 so that you can be alerted. We're going to say that on that Wednesday, for this one, that the driver's going to start this week, right here. And you have a fuel card, so you're not going to have to pay your fuel until next Friday, the 27th. Okay? and it's going to come out every week. So how you go into this part, this is saying until, and you have the option to do until this number of times or until we reach. This number of times, you just simply click that, and you could put 60 times, 300 times, as far as the calendar will let you go out. Remember, that's going to be per week. So 52 weeks in a year. The calendar, I believe, goes out at least 10 years. So that's the max you can do. Or you can put until we reach a certain dollar amount. For this one, it won't really make sense. That's better for loans. So I'm just going to simply click out as far as the calendar will let me go. Let's stop in 2032 just to make it easy, because you can see 2034 kind of cuts me a little bit. 2033 cuts me, so we'll just stop here. So we're going to say the January 30th of 2032. It's really nice because you can go as far as you need to. So there it is. You don't have to click finish yet. You keep that there and you continue to build your calendar. So let's go to the next one. The next one is our weekly income, $6,900 a week. How did I get $6,900? I looked at 3,000 miles per week. I looked up the daily, today's rate of where we are based off of this month, which is around $2.30 a mile for a dry van truck. If you're doing flatbed, or if you're doing a different type of industry, then of course you want to adjust it for yours. But for just this calendar, we're going to base off a dry van truck, based off this month, that is running around $2.30 per mile. I always tell people, always kind of go in low. Don't try to go in high. When you go in high, that's when you get yourself in trouble, because you end up trying to say you're making more money than you are, and it doesn't really make sense to do that. We're going to just say this is broker A. If you got multiple brokers, maybe one broker, you're spending, it's a half of this amount to go out and the other half coming in, then you can put broker A, broker B, or whatever you choose to put here so you know the name of who is paying you that amount of money. This again is going to be weekly. Now, like I said, we're going to start it this week. So the driver's going to start out this week. So we're just going to assume that our first check doesn't come until this Friday. It's a little scary because that means that's the same day you get paid. That's usually how trucking works, and I'm going to be very honest with you, that is the truth. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I typically move this to Monday. The reason why is because if for whatever reason anything's late, I'm covered. And I know how much money I need to cover myself for. So I'm going to move this to Monday, and I want to show you something. Again, we can always move it later, just for the lesson. I want to make sure everybody knows what we're doing. Remember, we're going to try to stick with 2032 for this one. So here's the last Monday. And again, we're going to go back and adjust it later. So, and this is every week on Monday. I believe I have that one. Yeah, there we go. Now let's go to the next one. We're just literally just going to build it out. Excuse me, sorry about that. We're going to build it out here. We got our weekly pay, our fuel. Now we're going to add our truck payment. What I did for the truck payment is I did base it off a low interest rate based on $60,000 truck that is being financed over 60 months or 5 years for a monthly payment of $1,025. You may have a different date, a different price. You have to make your adjustments. Now, I put that under loan payments. And then I like to put, it's up to you, you can put the name of the company of the loan through, if it's Navy Federal, if it's Bank of America, whoever it is. But I like to put loan and then truck number, because you may have multiple trucks with different payments. So you want to make sure this makes sense. And this is going to be a monthly payment. And we're just going to assume that you just bought the truck, so your first payment's not going to be due until, let's say February the 7th. So on the 7th of each month, you're going to have that truck payment. Okay, every month. They're including weekends. This basically is, especially for a lot of loans, most of them now are coming out on Saturdays. they're coming out on holidays. I've even seen that sometimes. So I always say including weekends no matter what. If you do it this way, you might end up, messing it up a little bit, because if something comes out before it's supposed to and you don't have that money in the bank, it's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So we have these three at the top. Let's get down to let's pay a driver. Now, if you don't have to pay a driver, wonderful. But if you do, you need to make sure you have that. The driver pay, again, based off of the 3,000 miles a week. I did it based off what the average driver is making right now. Again, this is going to be based off of experience, the type of runs that you're doing, and the type of loads that he's going to be carrying. So this is 58 cents a mile. You may be in a region where it's much higher or lower, but I'm just doing this so that you can see how we put this together. So I do that 3,000 multiplied by 58 cents, and that's where I got $17.40. And we're going to pay the driver weekly. Now for this one, I like to put it under payroll. If you don't have a payroll, go ahead and add it. So I'm going to put this as driver Eric. $17.40. You can also change the colors here. If you don't like that color, you can go in there and adjust it however you want. Now, this is why you see a lot of companies that like to pay 1 week in the whole. Because if the driver drives this week, and let's say you end your payroll on the 19th, or you end your payroll on the Wednesday, and you tell me you're going to get paid every Friday after, then you won't have the money to pay them yet, unless you already have money in the bank that's set aside. You only have $2,500, so obviously you don't right now. Most people are going to go ahead and set this up for the 27th. Now remember, I put the payroll, the money not coming into the 30th. But I like to show you this so you can just have an idea of how much money you really need to have set aside before you start. Yes, maintenance is important, but payroll is just as important. And you're going to do this every Friday that your driver's going to get paid. Let me actually move this. My apologies. That's when the money will most likely come out your account. This is really when you need the money available, which is Wednesday. Because a lot of times if you have systems like ADP, a couple days ahead, they're going to go ahead and draft that account to pull that money so it can be ready to be taken out to deposit into the driver's pay by Friday. There are some systems now I've seen that will do it same day. If you find out, that's great, especially if you're just starting out. It may be a good way for you to kind of get your money together before the money comes out. But I would say Wednesdays for now, just to cover yourself. Now we're going to do our scales. The scales, of course, is when you go into the weigh station and you have to actually scale the truck to weigh it out. And you want to make sure that it matches all your customer bills. So here you see I have it here, scales. This is just the way I like to put things. I'll tell you, there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. Other people go onto my calendars and they're saying, what are you doing? Why do you do yours like that? The scales are usually about $12.50 to $13 to $15 per scale. I'm just assuming that this driver is scaling every week. So maybe he'll scale here in Tuesday and then again on Thursday, and it averages about $37.50 per week. So make sure you have those scales on there. Again, I'm just going to push it out. I'm just going to assume you're going to have your company for about 9 years or more. So I put it on Thursday. Then you're going to have your tolls. These are your monthly fee. Some tolls, unless you decide to pay them outright, you see I already have tolls listed here. So I'm just going to click here, new transaction. And on this one, I'm going to click tolls. You can do this per truck as well. That is up to you. You have the option to get Pre-Pass or Best Pass or even to look up different toll companies so that you can make sure that your tolls are always paid. Generally, you will put a deposit for your tolls and they wouldn't be due until the next month. So assuming you started on this week, the week of the 15th, your tolls will probably be due somewhere around here to pay it, because you have to make sure that account is always has the 500 or amount for total. So it just cannot drop below a certain amount depending on what you negotiate with the company. Some companies will say, well, you have to have a minimum of 250. So if the account gets down to 220, they will actually sometimes take 250 out your account to make it, to put it back. So you need to really ask. Some will just take the difference, but you need to make sure you ask them what do they do in those cases if the account drops. Don't just assume that everything's going to be okay. You need to make sure you ask a company before. Always ask. Okay, this is payroll systems like QuickBooks. And you can put that there if you need to. If you don't remember. I like to always write my transactions down before I put them in here. It really helps. I'm going to put that on the payroll because it is a payroll system. The categories are nice because when you get audited or if you're just doing your taxes, you can simply pull these categories up and give them to your accountant. Or she can have access to it. He or she can have access to it as well. So we're going to assume you're going to start your phase payroll here. So we're going to have that already set up prior. So we're going to move it for this week because we're going to move it for the 15th because we have to set up payroll prior to that. You need all the systems set up already. So we're going to say it's going to be on the 15th of every month. That is usually a monthly transaction. Now remember, a lot of these you can pay them yearly and save some money. That is completely up to you. Your IFTAs are quarterly. I like to put that under the tax portion. Here's my tax. I think I also had an option. I think I had IFTAs on here as well. Yeah, so I have IFTAs on here too. Some people put their IFTA under their fuel because IFTA is a fuel tax. That whatever makes you happy. I did have IFTA over here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So here's IFTA. I'm just going to say it's about $150 for the one truck. It's based off the miles that you run through each state. So you'll have to adjust that. But the IFTAs do need to be paid quarterly and annually. Do not miss those payments. For quarterly, you're just simply going to put every 3 months. Very simple. If something is going to be quarterly, is going to be every bi-weekly, you can just go in here and make these adjustments here every 2 weeks. Anything twice a year, every 6 months, whatever you need, you can make those adjustments. Okay. Now let's go to the insurance. So you have physical damage and liability. I'm assuming that you're having your authority, which is going to be more, you're going to have to pay usually for both of these. Now, if you lease your truck under a company, generally this will usually be about the same, but this one right here, well, actually sometimes it can be lower, but this one right here would be much lower because you're leasing under them. But of course, that would also mean this would also be lower because you would be paying, you would be giving them a percentage of that, sometimes anywhere between 15 to 30% that you can be giving them. So yes, you're saving on a lot of these little fees, but it's still going to be, it's going to cost, you're going to pay somewhere. It's just less that you have to manage, which is nice. So let's go to insurance. I have it here. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 here because I have physical damage and I have liability. So physical damage and kind of like your bobtail insurance, that really just covers the truck. Liability is where you start covering the goods. If you don't have liability, most people do not want you to run for them. I'm going to assume this is going to be about $338 a month. Again, it's going to be based off the truck value. The $2,500 is going to be based off your driver, your company. It's an overall look at your company. And you're going to just start this insurance. So it most likely won't finish payment. Let's just say it's going to be due on the 13th. I'm just going to assume we start it together. I'm putting it as we start together. I still like my insurance companies to be separate. I really do not prefer them to be, if I have Progressive, if Progressive's holding the liability, then I don't want them also holding the physical damage. I usually will find a different company or vice versa. Just because if there is an issue, many times they'll try to cancel both policies, and you don't want them to do that. So you want to make sure that you keep yourself in. Let me just show you can do this as well if you don't want to have to every single time click it out. There we go. But it's just my apologies. Click the wrong one. Here's the tracking systems. This is probably going to be like your Keep Trucking or Samsara, usually paid on a monthly basis. I sometimes put that under subscription. You can choose to put it under tracking. Whatever is going to alert you to know what it is, that's all that matters. So I'm just going to say this is our Keep Trucking. It's actually Keep Trucking, I think. My brain is not sure about that, but I think it's Keep Trucking. I'm going to put trucking because it's driving. I don't like that little line under. I think it's Keep Trucking. Okay, here we go. And again, these are things that you're usually going to have a deposit on. So the first month will be coming due, let's just say around here. $32 is as far as it's letting us go out right now, so that's why we're putting those dates for right now. Okay, office supplies. That depends. I mean, everyone's a little different. I have my office set up where I already have everything purchased. Like I have my printer, I have my laptop already. If you need those things, if I do have an inkjet printer, so it does seem to cost me, not too much, but it costs everything. But I like to put that under my supplies. Those are all tax deductible, so you want to make sure that you have these things in here. You may need signs. You may if you print your own signs, you can put under those type of things. Or if it's advertising signs, which might be a little different, then you would want to have a separate advertising category. But this one is, your number is going to be different. It's about how much money you spend and what things you already have. I had a lot of things. I worked from home for a while, so I had a lot of things already. So I generally don't spend a lot on these things. But I'm going to put it here just to say right now at the end of the month, all the way through the end of this month, up here, every quarter I'll get new items. If I need it. If you don't, when that time comes, you simply delete it off. And then here's your tag renewals. Every state, every county is going to be different. So you want to know where you're going to be really listing that truck or purchasing that truck. So we're going to go up and say that this is for your tags for this particular truck. This could be higher or lower. But I want you, again, don't put the number so low that you do a budget calendar and then everything pops up a bit higher. Now, we're going to assume for this one that you already paid the tax because you bought the truck. So your next one should not be due until 2024. And usually it's going to be at the end of January. Just depending on whenever you got the tax, it's 1 year from that date. So we're just going to say around here, you're going to have to pay that. Every year. Okay? You need to change the color. Remember, you can. I like pink. License renewals. These may be certifications, anything that you have that you need to renew. This could be your TWIC card every 5 years. If you have a TWIC, I believe it's $125 to renew or $125 to get it, and then maybe $90 something to renew. That may be something you'll put in there for the driver. Any type of certification that you have annually that you renew, that it goes here. And then accounting fees. I do like to have an accountant on hand. I do not like dealing with that side of things. I did not go to school for that. I do not want to have to deal with it. Let her. She's good at it. I know my part. She can learn her part. So I also don't want to get in trouble. So I let them do it. Usually my accountant, the end of every month, the last payroll amount of each month is when they'll take that amount out. So you'll just need to figure out with your accountant what day she's going to take that out. So for this one, I'm just going to assume that I'm going to jump ahead here and say that she's going to take it out on this day. Sorry, I'll jump back. My apologies. And we're going to go, this one we're going to figure out what that last week is here. Because we're going to keep it, because we have the driver being available on the 28th, right? So that's going to be part of their, so I apologize, that's the 25th. So that Wednesday, the same way the driver's getting paid, so we want to end it on that Wednesday of that one, because that's usually when they'll pull it out. They usually pull it out as far as payroll. Everyone, like I said, every accountant is different. You set it up how you want to set it up. They may charge way less than what I'm quoting you. You shop around, but my suggestion is find an accountant that is really, really good at understanding trucking. You don't want an accountant that's having you paying fees that you shouldn't be paying. This number right here is based on you. And we'll go in there and tell you what it is. And this is your maintenance. Most people like to do between, I've heard 5%. It's a little low, but most people like to do between 10 and 20% of maintenance, just depending on what cost they have coming out. I've heard different on this. I'm going to put it at 10% for your maintenance costs. You can also break this down. Some people get like really good with this, where they break it down to the tires, to the oil changes. I think it's a great idea as far as you can to estimate when you're going to need tires again, when you're going to need an oil change again, and just put it all on the calendar versus just putting just the maintenance. But you still want to have a separate amount of money that just goes aside for maintenance transactions. And I'm going to show you later, once you put these things on here, how to show it in a separate account. So it's coming out of this account, but it's going to go somewhere else to store so that you have that money set aside. So I'm going to show you that before we completely close this out. And actually, it'll be on the next lesson. You're going to add an account very similar. The only difference is you're going to just use that to transfer the money into it. This will be weekly. This will be based off your income. So remember I said for Mondays. I believe I started on the 23rd. Let me double check this. You can always go back in here. Yep, Monday. See, you can always just toggle back. I know it feels slow, but this is where most people don't do it. I mean, I'll be really honest. This is right where I see companies fail, is because they don't know their money. So don't be that person. Know your money. This is the trailer rental usually, or any type of rental equipment that you need to put on here. I believe I have trailers on here. Let's see. There we go. And if you are good, if you've got a trailer monthly payment, you can put that as well. This is just, we're going to assume it's a monthly, because I've seen these trailers being really expensive. Don't spend a bunch of money on your trailer rentals. Please don't. I'm just going to go ahead and put it for starting this month. And I'll move it out. Okay? Once a month. I've seen companies really, I say get your trailer locally. Find a local company. A lot of these larger companies are really ripping you off. You can find a place to get you a good trailer. Just try to keep your trailer under 10 years old if you can, because some customers won't take really old trailers. They'll tell you they'll deny the load and you'll be stuck with it. So don't put yourself in that position. Office fees. This is if you have to rent an office space. If you don't want everything going to your home address, this may be something that you want here. I don't like things going into my home address. I like to have it going to an office. And really it just kind of separates everything. You just got the office, so your first payment, we're going to say, is going to be the next month around the 6th. Now, if you're smart, you're going to go ahead and look at when your stuff is due now. so that we can make sure that these things are right if you already have these things. Okay. So now we have your phone bill. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm very frugal on my phone bill. I don't pay $110 a month on a phone. My highest bill is like maybe $55, $60, especially for a business. I'm not paying that much money on a phone bill. It's just too much money. I think it is. That is, I'm just sorry. I'm just scrolling through here looking to see if I have phone already listed or not. I thought I did. If not, no problem. I will go ahead and put it on. And it is in alphabetical order usually, so, but I don't see it. Not a problem. Let's go put it. Real quick, banking. This is if your bank charges any monthly fees. Make sure you put that on there. And ask them, do you charge fees? And if they do, of course, you're going to want to be like, find one that doesn't. You don't want to be paying fees. I'm going to put, just so this is Verizon. Again, try to keep your phone bill low. Keep your costs as low as possible so you can have your profit as high as possible. Let's just say your phone bill is due on the 31st of the month. And we'll just do the 31st of that as well. The nice thing about calendar budget, it will tell you if something's off. You don't have to really, it's pretty sensitive if something's off, so you don't have to worry about messing up too much. And if you do, you can always go back and fix it. Not a problem. Okay, so here's the taxes. This is going to be, this is going to be based off what your accountant tells you, but talk to your accountant. Ask them about how much do they want you to put aside, if they want you to pay it quarterly, yearly, monthly, however they want it. A lot of people like to just simply take it out their gross every week. So this will be your annual taxes that you're going to pay end of the year. You can set this up as quarterly. You just need to ask them how much. If you don't want it coming out like this, and just change it to 3. I'm just going to put it at right now weekly, just as if you're going to set it aside into a separate account. And again, I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now we've entered our transactions. Remember I showed you how you can change the colors if you want. I showed you how you can add categories. Make sure you put your starting balances in. Scroll, just kind of sliding through. Whatever you want to name the account. If you wanted to have a monthly max budget so that it alerts you if it goes over. This is your withdrawal and deposit. Let's make sure when we put that income in that we made it as income. Look at that. That wouldn't have been good. Deposit. We don't want to withdraw $69 every week. That's a little much. And that's going to automatically change to income when you do that. Okay, now I have finished the budget calendar. I'm going to go ahead and click finish. It'll start creating it. And here it is. Now we're going to go to the next lesson, which will be in video number 3, where we can start getting into how to use your budget calendar and to see if you need more money in there or not. This is where we're going. Let's go. See you in the next lesson.